Hi, thanks for joining me. I have a question for you. Is equality wrong? Okay, let me be completely frank. I don't think the concept of equality is wrong, and I believe in egalitarian ideas. I believe that in fairness, I believe that people deserve to be treated equally, regardless of their race, sex, gender identity, nation of origin, the language they speak, whether they worship God, no God, or worship a giant spaghetti monster in the sky. I believe in a generalized idea of respect and for everyone. However, I find that there's a problem when you discuss the idea of equality using that specific word with people who seem against the concept, and that it seems to be like throwing seeds on sand. And I'll explain. When people on the left or from a liberal standpoint speak in terms of equality, a lot of times they're talking about how everybody deserves a generalized idea of respect and doesn't deserve any kind of instant derision based on who they are. They don't deserve to be insulted because of their nation of origin or their sexual identity or any of those elements. And so when the talk of equality happens from the liberal and progressive side, it means being able to operate and live in the world as yourself without threat of affront from the outside. Just people won't throw racial or sexual slurs at you just because of your existence, and that when it comes to jobs and other situations where you deserve, it is assumed that you are of quality with everyone else who is hired at said company, but you may have other characteristics. Those characteristics should not preclude you not getting that job because you are a woman, because you are from another country, because you are gender nonconforming, what have you. And that's usually what equality means on the progressive left. Now, I'm shorthanding this, so understand that, and it's going to be okay. There's no way to hit all bases in a football game. So the problem that I see in dealing with this is that usually when you're having an argument, especially about equality, with people who are hostile to the idea for one reason or another, and at the extreme there are the racists, and at the other extreme there are people who believe that life isn't fair, stuff's tough, that equality is attempting to raise the bar unnecessarily for people who don't deserve their space. This is the group that believes that they might lose a job to a woman who's less qualified because of quotas and that kind of stuff. Those seem to be the two main groups. And there's a lot in that conversation. But the big sticking point that often comes up is this idea of equality and equality for everyone. The problem I see with people who are either hostile to the notion or just, straight up where they don't seem to understand the need for it, or they view it as special treatment, is that equality to them sounds different. And one of the things is that a lot of people on seemingly on the right, and a lot of people that come from kind of a very highly motivated lifestyle, and there's a lot of akin people that operate on the right who view themselves as achievers and whatnot, is that equality to them, since they have a generalized disdain for almost everyone but themselves, that they operate from a very Ayn Randian, selfish point of view, that if you say, I believe all people are equal, their answer isn't, no, people don't deserve to be equal, they deserve to have merit. They kind of go, yeah, they are all equal. They all suck. There's this, the argument often is at cross purposes, and that the people who on the right have a bit of a superiority complex, it seems, around an earned privilege concept, because they've been because they were raised to believe it, but also because there are people who attack them based on their privilege all the time. So it creates a defensive posture internally and psychologically that pushes back on that idea. So they constantly have to reinforce that I have privilege because I deserve it. Therefore, I am special. Therefore, if I'm special, no one else can be. And so when you argue for equality, it does not bring marginalized people up in their measure. It brings everyone in their group down to a, yeah, but so what? People suck. There are only a few winners and a bunch of losers, and that never achieves a growth step in their estimation or in their conversation about people who are marginalized, and raises their station. They simply lower the station of the people in their own group that they don't like, rednecks, hicks, low rent members of their family, people that they take for granted and dismiss as being a burden to society. Effectively, they just go, yeah, sure, black people or Asian people or non-binary people or whatever are equal, but they're equal with white trash, and I don't like those people either. So the argument for equality ends up undermining the entire conversation. So the answer is, I think, is the constant reminding of, and this has to do with the instruction of people about genuine history and making people aware of greatness in history, of people that they consider in these marginalized groups, that knowing about great women leaders in the past is more important than the generalized idea of women are equal, insofar as how it will move the conversation forward. And the example I would give, and this is why I think they have a hard time grasping this idea, or why history is so important when you're offering alternate perspectives. A lot of times what happens is the idea of alternate history is we look back and we go, this group was destroyed by this group. So white people came in and they did this to this group of people, and therefore these people aren't getting what they deserve. What happens in that conversation is very similar in that they go, yeah, white people fought them and these people lost, therefore white people are winners. Like that's literally the intellectual mechanic you're operating with. Instead of going, actually, a lot of these people helped white people for a long time until white people turned on them, and then that ends up being a non-trustworthy situation or whatever. Or white people adapted a lot of the thought forms of these folks, and this country wouldn't be here without them, and which is a much more open conversation and leads the seeds of leading somebody towards a more open-minded view of the whole thing. Victimization in the past and a fixation on victimization in the past often guarantees that group of people that you're arguing with believes that, yeah, they lost. That's the weak group, and life is full of winners and losers. And this goes to the same idea of equality. So the idea of heroes throughout history and the idea that people against the odds, that's hard to argue with. And I've often found that I don't, in my life, think in terms of equality. I think of heroes that I have that look and sound and live differently than I do. Women who are heroes to me, both in, musicians who are heroes to me, mathematicians who are heroes to me. And in that group is every person of almost every stripe in the entire world. And that's superiority is something that they can't really argue against when they're just kind of dismissing people outright. So the idea is that I'd like to present to you is that it is more important to provide stories of historical heroism and greatness that these people might not have been exposed to, that oftentimes, because these are marginalized groups and have been through so much, will have way more of an impact and are harder to shake off than the generalized idea that people are equal or everyone deserves respect, which is may be true, but is linguistically easy to dismiss. And you can literally factually make up a reason why you don't think that's true. Not all people are equal, because not everybody's born smart. Not everybody's born, like people, come from different cultures, and certain aspects of life aren't appreciated in those cultures, and therefore they won't be equal to, and there are peaks and valleys and everything. Okay, so equal's not a real thing that anybody expresses, and that's why fairness is a much better goal to have in that regard, that people are treated fairly to bring what they have to the table. And again, it is the idea that you can say that, people are equal is different than saying people should be treated equally, because that's less hard to argue. People should be treated equally. Not everybody's equal in every area, but the treatment of them as equal gives them the opportunity to expand and grow and reach their potential, and that's ultimately got to be the goal. So I would suggest in conversations about things that you care about equality, about the ideas that will move us as a human species forward, is that remind people in these conversations of heroes that exist in this world, and remind yourself, educate yourself of heroes that look different than you and sound different than you and had a different life experience than you. Because not only is it inspiring, but also it gives you the ability to inspire others. Because when you're having a conversation, you're not saying abstracts like people deserve respect. Well, you don't believe that yourself. You don't believe child molesters deserve respect or whatever, and you wouldn't care what color they were. So ultimately, you don't believe that, and you don't believe that there's tiers of, well, yeah, he was, this is what white child molesters here and an Asian child molester. Like, you don't do that either. So neither would they. So the idea that people are automatically equal or automatically deserving of respect may be a true feeling for you, but it doesn't land with almost anyone you speak to, because it's measurably false. And so the idea would be, don't think in terms of equality, but forcefully, passionately understand and really try to absorb the idea that there are heroes in every time period, society group, section of the populace, and those people deserve to be celebrated. And so try to expand your knowledge about those particular people. From everyone from Jean de Clisson to Margaret Thatcher, depending on whatever you feel about them, to the musicians of your choice, to there's umpteen areas where you can look back. I mean, Frederick Douglass has been doing some great work lately. I think we can all agree on that. But knowing those people and being, not just so that you can carry that conversation forward and mention it to people, but because you'll be inspired by knowing their story, and then you will be able to articulate that inspiration for caring for people who are different than you in such a way that is a passionate defense of them, instead of a generic wish-wash of, I believe in equality. Because that is far harder to defend, and the person that you're probably, if you're having to argue equality with someone, they don't believe it to start with on base, at the generalized measure. And as a matter of fact, they don't even think they're equal in their own world or society. They believe they are superior in their group. So they are always going to think that. And so the only way to appeal to that and to make them recognize and to chip away at their assuredness that they are somehow solely special in that world is providing them with evidence of genuine heroism, genuine strength, and genuine growth, power, passion, talent, what have you, in these groups that they so easily dismiss. That's the thought. I don't believe in equality. I believe in heroes. And I believe there are heroes of every kind. And I think that's a better way of arguing it. I'd love to hear what you guys think. It's, it might be this one of these things linguistically sticks in the craw for me, but nobody really cares about. I'm completely comfortable with that. But it is something that constantly comes up when I watch people argue this, and I want to know what you think. Leave a comment below. And then, of course, I'll see you on Saturdays on HSRPM between 9 and 11 on WCPT Radio and HalSparks.tv. We'll see you.